Hello, and welcome to Talking Sense, a Pittsburgh Works Together interview series featuring our region's most influential leaders. We'll get their perspectives on jobs, the economy, and other topics vital to Pittsburgh's progress. I'm Doris Nagy, and on today's episode, I speak with Vince Gastgeb, Chief Government and Corporate Affairs Officer at the Allegheny County Airport Authority. Vince shares how the Pittsburgh International Airport is at the forefront of economic development, energy innovation, and local investment. He also gives an update on the airport's new terminal, which is nearing completion. We hope you enjoy this insightful and informative discussion. Hi, Vince. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work with Pittsburgh International Airport?
Yes, first of all, thanks for having the airport here. We like to get out and be amongst the community, so we really appreciate the opportunity. So I'm the Chief Government and Corporate Affairs Officer for the Allegheny County Airport Authority, which operates Pittsburgh International as well as Allegheny County Airport in West Mifflin. My department does all the government work. You can think of lobbying, working with the elected officials, having those relationships, legislation, regulations, grants, which are extremely important now in today's society, and pretty much all government functions. Also corporate work, that's working with the corporations in town, understanding their needs, so we can message the airlines where a certain corporation may be growing, what cities are important to them. And then some special projects like our Neighborhood 91, which is a business park for advanced manufacturing. And then more recently, energy. We're looking at some blended fuels, if you will, for the aviation sector that could be made on our property. So a lot of traditional aeronautic and maybe some non-aeronautical work going on.
Incredible. So I know there's been a lot of excitement around the airport's new terminal. For those who may have missed those recent headlines, can you walk us through what's new about the terminal, what projects are represented for the region, and where you think things stand right now?
Well, by far, it's our biggest project amongst many, and it's going to be great for our region. I think what's the most interesting to me is that the current airport we're in and the one that was built in '52, that this current one replaced, were not really built for Pittsburgh by Pittsburghers, if that makes sense, because the dominant airline at the time, and in the '50s it was Allegheny Airlines, what became U.S. Air Airlines. They had more say in how they wanted the airport to look because they were the hub carrier. And the county and the city and the region listened because that was the boss, so to speak. This is different. This allows us to really dig in and see what Pittsburgh needs. The other aspect that's drastically different is those airports were built for connecting passengers. So think about a passenger that never touches foot in Pittsburgh, goes from one gate to the other. That was 90% of our traffic. So the first building, the landside building, was only used by Pittsburghers. Estimated at the time, late 80s and 90s when it opened, 6 million passengers. Now we have 10 going through that building. So it's past its useful life. The spare parts are even hard to get, and it was built for an airline, doesn't exist. This landside building changes everything. The TSA, one of my favorite things to talk to my elected officials about. No wait times, basically, new machinery. We're going from up to 12 lanes. It's going to be a complete different experience for the passenger. Also different is the walk-through times. Also the design, it's probably going to be one of the most beautiful airports in the country due to the design team that we had. Almost everything's local that we have, which we wanted. We were very intentional about that. But our visionary designer came from Spain, and he worked with local architects here. But he put together just a fabulous design of nature, technology, community that is just going to be loved. So we're very proud about how that's going to look and the functionality of it.
Wow, that sounds incredible. I know the airport has been positioning itself as more than just a travel hub, but really a driver of economic development. Can you tell us a little bit about how the changes there are going to drive the economy and what that looks like as well?
Yeah, so we talked about the new terminal, and that will bring in $29 billion worth of economic generation. Also, the flights that we have, like the London flight, that flight alone brings in $50 million a year. British Airways is one of the world-renowned airlines in the world, and Pittsburgh has it. We also have Iceland Air as far as passenger service. We punch above our weight with cargo. So those are all economic generators. Then you take away that and go over to the non-aeronautical side, the business parks we have, Neighborhood 91, the technology we have with the X-Bridge, the energy innovation that we have. It goes on and on and on. So we are a partner with all economic development. And if you think about it, that's what airports should do. They're a microcosm of the region that they're in. So we work with the Allegheny Conference. We work with the Tech Council. we work with Visit Pittsburgh so that we're actually showcasing not just us from a leisure perspective, but from a business perspective, so we have that economic development.
And so that includes air service development as well, when you say the British Airways flight and things of that nature. So there's more of that happening as well.
Yeah, one of the jokes we have is, if you don't have the airlines, you're just a big building. So, I mean, they're our customer and so is our passengers, but we really court the airlines because they could put a plane pretty much anywhere. One of the sayings in aviation is planes don't have babies. So if you lose a plane, someone's gaining a plane somewhere, because orders are slow to come by between Boeing and Airbus. So I think, again, we punch above our weight in the number of nonstops we have, which is around 62 at this point. When I started in 2013, right around when Christina Casotis, our CEO, started, we were at 37. So almost doubling the number of nonstops through a pandemic, getting a new building constructed that the airlines are paying for. So I look at the airlines as our partner, and I think they look at us as the partner too, because they're investing with flights and they're investing in the infrastructure of the new terminal.
Absolutely. So with new infrastructure like Route 576 improving access, what kinds of businesses are you seeing or hoping to attract to the airport corridor? And is there any interest there starting to take shape?
I think the airport corridor is one of the hotter parcels of land that we have in the county because of roads like the Parkway West, I-79. Now you could add the Southern Beltway, which is a toll road. Our acreage is almost 9,000. So we really have a circle around all the highways, but then outside of our 9,000, Amazon's right there. And then it goes down to South Point. So that road really is a mecca for business. You could do pretty much a business trip to South Point with numerous companies like CNX, for instance, then go to the airport and look and see how the natural gas is working, how the cargo is working, getting flights out of there. So that road has made a big difference in the growth of that area, in the airport area.
And manufacturing is part of the conversation in an unexpected way. How are local materials, businesses, and labor being used in this terminal project? And what message does that send about Pittsburgh's industrial capacity that we have here today?
So I think with our terminal specifically, making everything local, or most things local, was very intentional. So the wood was sourced in a Pennsylvania forest. The steel was fabricated in Simple Steel in Beaver County. All the construction companies are local construction companies led by Mascaro. So it was a way to get these companies involved in breaking down the contracts that more than one could have a piece of the business, if you will. Also using union labor, 100%, following the Separations Act of Pennsylvania, so we're doing it right. So that really has been an economic boon. The other things that are important that kind of dovetail are the Neighborhood 91 campus. Advanced manufacturing, I feel, is pretty much the next manufacturing wave of our region, kind of how steel was with Andrew Carnegie in the late 1800s. We have a campus of 3D printing as we speak right now on our property that we helped nurture with a public-private partnership. RADC right now is the project developer, very well known here in our region, very successful, so much so we're ready to break ground for a second building. And we continue to bring world-renowned companies in, whether it's Neighborhood 91 or more recently, Mainspring, which does linear generators, located right next to Dick's Corporation, Sporting Goods, who was also on our property. So you can see how this all diversification adds up to a pretty big win for economic development in our area.
Absolutely. And we've heard a lot about supply chains, logistics, and infrastructure over the last few years. How is the airport kind of adapting to those changes, and what role does it play in helping local businesses and manufacturers stay competitive?
So supply chain's been an issue pretty much across all sectors. Spare parts, for example, are hard to get in the aviation sector. We did a great job in sourcing everything we needed for our new terminal in advance and housing it. So we bought it when the prices were low, kept it, then used it when we needed to. So it was very smart by our CFO team and our finance team. So we're really dealing with the aspects of what the airlines can't get. Believe it or not, if you can't get a bolt for the door that goes to the bathroom on a plane, that plane can't fly. So there's all these challenges that we face with our partners through supply chain. We think 3D printing is a way to get that bolt a different way instead of waiting for the spare part to come for some shelf in some warehouse somewhere. So we're trying to kind of lead the way with saying Are we using 3D printing the way we should within the aviation sector? And maybe even the defense, because you have the same thing with submarines, aircraft carriers, planes. So again, Pittsburgh's leading the way with possible solutions.
Absolutely. The airport is obviously also one of the most visible gateways to Pittsburgh. How does the design and function of the new terminal reflect the identity and values of this region?
So I was talking about the visionary designer that we employed and how we got everyone together to think about what is Pittsburgh. So we immersed this person with stay downtown, go on the river trails. Mm-hmm. And he noticed the rolling hills of Pittsburgh, and the roof reflects the rolling hills. He noticed the natural light and the green space. And some people, unless you come to Pittsburgh, they still have that smoky image. I don't realize it's clean and it's green. So the airport reflects that with constellation lighting and things like that. It's natural lighting. So I think the building is going to be very pleasing. It's also LEED certified, gold, which is hard to get. It's hard to do. So from an environmental standpoint, that was also very intentional. The walk times, there's two little things that I like about it. There's a one-way flow each way. So from a departure standpoint, when you walk from the curb, the TSA to your gate, you're the only one going that way. You have no interface coming the other way. Conversely, when you land, you go from the gate to your car or to a taxi, you're only going one way. So it's so functional from that standpoint. And I call it the outdoor airport because we have terraces before security and after security that people could go outside. The one thing Pittsburgh is noted for in the aviation field is meeters and greeters. It's kind of odd for other people that come here and say, people drop you off? Like what? You know, people actually ride you there? You don't park, you don't take public transportation, and we do. And we have 2 military bases on our property, so a lot of time the young men and women going out to base or even overseas are dropped off by their parents. So yes, we do have a large meter greeter. So now they have a place to go outside. So that's to me is just so novel. The second part of it is, can you imagine going outside after you pass security? It's like you could go outside. It's unheard of. Yeah. And we learned through the pandemic when we had to take a pause. We actually started the project before the pandemic, took a pause, not even knowing if the airlines would be agreeable because they're paying for it. Mm-hmm. Airlines are paying for this, you know, without any reservation. They still stayed with us through the darkest time, one of the darkest times of our sector. And they said, as we were going through this, let people go outside. And even without the pandemic, people were anxious about flying. You can't get out of the building once you're in. You might be in for several hours. Now you have that option, whether it's February or August.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but passenger flights get the headlines, but cargo can be a major economic driver. Given the airport's location and new terminal, how are you positioning Pittsburgh as a cargo hub, and what's the growth potential that you see there?
I think the growth potential is one of the highest we have at the airport. The tail on the kite of cargo goes on for economic generation because of the jobs. It's beyond trucking, it's logistics, it's white-collar jobs, it's people that work at the airport. We have Amazon right now doing 2 flights a day. UPS and FedEx keep growing. But the real challenge for us, in which we've become more and more successful, is getting these freighters, as they're called. They're hauled out planes. You just put pallets in there. We've had Cathay Pacific. We've had Ethiopian. We've had Turkish. We've had Qatar. We've had Atlas. So we're punching above our weight. Mm-hmm. We just built a new cargo building, in addition to building this new terminal, that the federal government was a partner with us on. And we just opened it. And we just did our first flight to Europe on rocket cargo. Probably not known, but we know these cargo carriers are becoming more and more interested in this state-of-the-art building. That actually we talked to Carnegie Mellon about, like, how do we make this? Where's AI come into this new building, or robotics? So this is going to be a game changer for us as well.
That's incredible. Speaking of the airport being on the cutting edge of things, the airport is always on the cutting edge of energy. How does the airport's microgrid keep it competitive?
I think when you hear the word microgrid, you're going to say, what? There's a microgrid in an airport? That was our calling card to be taken seriously in the energy field, because we're going to conferences and seminars now that aren't really even aviation, they're energy. And at the beginning it was like, what are you guys doing here? Like, you're in an airport, like you're in the wrong room. But the microgrid was like our Willy Wonka gold ticket. We're like, oh my God, you guys put a microgrid totally off the regular electricity. The airport, the Sunoco station, you know, that whole footprint there is on the microgrid. The reason why that's important, first of all, it's a better decarbonization footprint for our environment. It lowers the cost, not just for us, but for our tenants, and we're resilient. Every once in a while you hear about an airport went down in our country or around the world. When that happens, when it goes down, when it goes dark and electricity goes off, the whole network gets backed up because you can't get to the next airport. So you like half the domestic and sometimes international goes down. That doesn't happen in Pittsburgh. So we're hardened to that aspect, and now people are following us in other localities with airports. So we're really on top of things. That shows that we can do it. And the next stage for us is going to be, once the terminal gets up, how do we make fuel better for society here? Because it's a very hard to abate sector.
So Vince, tell me a little bit more about the microgrid and really the sources of energy for that, and a little bit more about the energy surrounding the airport in general.
So it's really taking what we have on our property and making the resources work. So natural gas is on our property. We drill for natural gas. Around 2011, 2012, it was passed that we can do that. But it's really been important for us to use that resource. So the microgrid's one example. The other is going to be the fuel that we want to have, sustainable aviation fuel. Some people are now calling it synthetic aviation fuel. Natural gas is a feedstock for that. And that will decarbonize the current jet fuel and make it more environmental friendly. So natural gas is not only helping decarbonize electricity, the fuel is also part of it. In addition to the microgrid, we have a solar farm, 10,000 panels, which also helps with the microgrid, and we're expanding that solar farm. So we're using, I think, the best of everything to take our environment to a better place.
And for those who want to learn more about the terminal, the airport's broader impact, or how to get involved, where can they go to find out more?
So flypittsburgh.com is our regular website, but there is one strictly for the terminal called pittransformed.com. So either one of those two would be good avenues to pursue to look at this further.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much, Vince.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity as always.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. Please stay tuned for our next episode.